Recording. Excellent. So, hi, welcome, recording friends. So we can share this with other folks who weren't able to be here today. So an emphasis on relationship and on process. We work really closely and get to know the clients. Over time, many of you will get a chance to know me or possibly other members of the team. A focus on systemic and structural change. So we're not looking necessarily to, while individual change is wonderful, this is much more about changing the structure. And then the services and consulting we offer is tailored to your unique needs, right? So thinking about the different pieces that you have as a community, as a workplace, and working towards that. So why DEI, right? This is an interrelational process, right? So this is diversity, equity, inclusion. That's that acronym. It's going to come up again and again, and you'll see it in other places as slightly different acronyms, sometimes with a different letter mixed in. My favorite, just for amusement value, is JEDI, where folks put justice at the beginning of that acronym, but this is the most broadly used. And a lot of it is about dialogue about across difference, right? This being an interrelational process that welcomes us to explore societal issues and views that differ, the different kinds of experiences we have as people in the world. And I have an adorable video that I'm hoping in my experimenting with sound sharing will work, that I think gives us a really good look into what this looks like. So I'm gonna try not to make y'all seasick with this, and then if this works well, do y'all have sound?
In a garden, there's a caterpillar and a snail, and they're basically best friends. They hang out 24/7. They do dinner, movie nights, crafts. Oh, and they're like really into cosplay on top of like whatever else caterpillars and snails do, like eat leaves or something. Anyways, one day they're on their way to a party that's right outside the garden, and they have to go through the fence to get there. So the caterpillar goes right through, but the snail is stuck. Her shell is just too big and it won't fit under the wire. So she's like, crap, I can't get through. Maybe like, can you lift up the wire, or maybe we can build a little bridge or something? And the caterpillar's like, dude, just go under. But she can't. There's just no way that the shell is gonna fit. And the caterpillar's like, go under, come on, we're gonna be late and I'm trying to hook up with that super cute ladybug. But it's not happening. The shell will not fit under the wire. And at this point, Snail's getting kind of frustrated because it's not like she doesn't want to go to the party, but for some reason, Caterpillar just isn't getting it. Yeah, it's not that easy for me. I just can't crawl under the fence like you can, so I would really appreciate your help here. Maybe we can like go a different way, and this just like sets the caterpillar off. What the heck? Just because I can crawl under stuff doesn't mean that I have it easy. Do you even know what it's like to have 16 feet? You don't, because finding shoes is a complete nightmare. Whoa. I'm not saying you have it easy. I'm just saying I can't go under the fence because of my shell. That's it. I have a shell and you don't. And there's some stuff that's easier for you that's harder for me. Just like, I don't know, jack about finding shoes because I don't have feet. Caterpillar thinks about this for a second and realizes the snail is right. I mean, he's never had to think about shells or slimy trails, and that's a privilege that the snail has never had because she has to think about that stuff all the time. That's part of being a snail. And it's kind of like that for everyone, right? I mean, we all have our own struggles and challenges, and some of them are small and some of them are huge and really unfair and beyond our control. And a lot of the time, it can be hard to see what someone else deals with because you've never been in their shoes or shell. Like maybe you're gay or trans, have a disability or different religion, or of course the obvious one, you're a member of a different race. I don't know what it's like to be you, and you don't know what it's like to be me. So it's really important to stop and try and see the other side so we can help each other overcome those obstacles together. It's like sometimes you're the snail and sometimes you're the caterpillar. Oh yeah, okay, so then the snail and the caterpillar figured out that if they went to the other side of the garden, they could get through a little break in the fence. And while it took a little longer to get to the party, they did the trip together, which is what made it so great. So they got to the party, the caterpillar hooked up with the ladybug, snail taught everyone how to do the wobble, and the party was everything. The end. This video was illustrated by the very talented and lovely Kat Black and written and narrated by yours truly, Cheska Lee. Please check out Kat's channel.
So I'm happy to share this link with you all, but this is a part of what we offer as our process. And you'll see here, we're mostly talking about our first phase with you all, but we'll be with you all for an 18-month journey. First doing assessment, which is what we're going to talk about today, then strategic planning, and then a phase of education and development. And the goal of this in many ways, right, is to get us to be able to talk across those lines between being, in this case, a caterpillar and a snail. So what do I mean when I say we do systemic and structural change, right? What are our approaches and our methods? So our approach, right, this is a systems level understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion, not a person level approach, but people obviously make up systems. We identify where and how DEI are located in the organization. We look at it in terms of policy, in terms of practice, in terms of culture. And we also connect the DEI theory to practice on our end. So looking at how power dynamics across identities, right, personal, social identities, and across the organizational hierarchy, right, two different ways we understand power colors the experience of staff, particularly folks from historically underserved or marginalized communities. And we look at how that inequity also exists potentially in policy and in practice. Our methods, we use critical content analysis to examine issues of identity and power, right? So we're back to talking about power, how they make a system in an organization, right? All organizations have systems or are systems. And this allows us to discover and describe the focus of individual, group, and organizational practice, right? Seeing it at multiple levels. And it allows us to look for trends and patterns to help you understand how the organization currently approaches DEI in written documents, in practice. So we look at this, looking at three major sort of buckets or ideas of the way organizations are set up. The organizational structure, exploring things like how steep is the hierarchy, who's accountable for DEI and how transparent is decision-making, what's the compositional diversity, right? The word, what people sort of think of when we think of diversity, right? The numbers, who's actually present. We look at organizational processes, so recruitment and hiring, retention and promotion, how DEI is navigated by the organization itself, and how conflict is resolved, what the processes for that is, what that looks like organizationally. And then we look at the organizational culture, right? So perceptions of fairness, what the communication is like, how effective is it, how transparent, how included do folks feel, and are folks seeing behavior that's exclusionary, either affecting themselves or witnessing it just affecting others. So these are the three buckets that we sort of measure diversity, equity, inclusion during this assessment phase. And then one of the other things we do is measure organizations along this diversity inclusion maturity model. You'll see this multiple times appear and reappear over our time together. But this is, a spectrum. You can see the little dotted lines around the rectangles, indicating that it's not, most organizations aren't solely in one place or another. Organizations, right, can be anywhere along the spectrum, from unaware, the sort of like, we don't even know this is a thing, what is DEI? You can sort of feel solidly sure that you're beyond there because you're engaged in this work and have someone doing this work professionally in your organization. On the other end of the spectrum, right, are organizations, places that are disruptive, places that are thought leaders, potentially examples for other places and organizations like them, or sort of doing cutting edge things, attention drawers. And the truth, right, is that many organizations are bits and pieces of all of this. And that it is, while it's a continuum, not every place is headed to the same place, right? Most places want to get to integrated, whether disruption is on your agenda or not. isn't something organizations need to know ahead of time. And disruption is sometimes highly performative. I think Starbucks is a great example of this, right? And they engage in disruptive things that people hear about in the news, right? They shut all their stores down to do training, which is great, right? Like nothing wrong with what they've done, but they talk like they're disruptive across the board. We also know that they engage in other practices that are not at all like that and are much earlier on the maturity model as a corporation. So lots of different kinds of behaviors here. But most organizations talk a lot like they're totally integrated and like on the verge of disrupting everything. They're just going to lead the charge. And the vast majority of organizations have just arrived at being compliant. So just having a sense of what reality is versus the way folks talk about their communities or their organizations. And knowing that it's fine to land wherever you are on this continuum, and that it's a thing that folks are moving along and sometimes circle back and move along again. So you'll see where we chart the town and county of Nantucket after we finish the assessment stage. So here's an overview of the actual project we're doing with you all for assessment. What is it actually going to look like for you all? So here's the not that exciting slide, but the big overview of what we're doing, project management, the kind of things you'd expect, meetings, data analysis. There'll be a big report at the end. We've done leadership readiness already with your town leadership, so the cabinet and also some additional community leaders. We do policy and practice review. So I spent a lot of time with a fine-tooth comb looking over all of the internal documents. Focus groups, which you may have been part of a focus group for something else in the past or even conducted one. We do a climate survey. We'll also be deploying a custom community survey that we've built for your community in particular a little bit later in this. We're doing communication support. We're working with we will be creating a new committee for DEI, doing some capacity building with them, and then, keeping leadership updated because that's important. So what does this look like? We're with you for 18 months. Today, we're talking about phase one pretty much exclusively because that's what we're right in the midst of. We'll be doing about 8 months of assessment, about 5 months of strategy development, and about 5 months of learning and development. There'll be some crossover right between these two phases. It's not like, and then this date will become the next phase. But right now, we've completed leadership readiness and we're moving into focus groups in the survey and the audit, but just to have a sense of what this looks like over a pretty long period of time. This assessment phase alone will bring us through July. So what are we doing for assessment? What does this actually look like? So we work together with the Siena College Research Institute, they do a lot of polling. You've probably seen data from them related to things that are not at all tangible development related, but we have a long standing partnership with them and have developed the DEI CAT, the climate assessment tool, with them, and they are able to host it for us, which gives us a lot of access that way, and also allows us to have a higher level of anonymity for participation. What do we measure in the DEI CAT? So we look at lots of things, but what we're bringing things together are to understand sort of two big outputs of this. One is this: we measure where organizations are institutionally, so the actual, the workplace, the town and county, and the personal. We look at beliefs and practices, right? So on the personal level, like what do individual employees think, believe about DEI? And then their practices, what are they doing, right? What are the actions related to that? And then the same thing mirrored on the institutional side, right? Structure is the beliefs. What do we have in place in terms of policy, in terms of procedure? Right, that's a corollary with practices. So this actual action piece, and then culture, right? What do we feel like? What is it actually like? What does it feel like on a belief side institutionally? So we're looking both at belief and at action on an institutional level, and on a personal level. It will eventually produce a score, but that part's the least important part in terms of understanding what we're looking at. It's just a useful way of seeing it at the end. And then the other piece we look at is we produce a tolerance thermometer. So when you take the survey, you'll actually get to like slides and it looks much like a thermometer, gauging what the working environment is like for folks of these 15 different identities. And you can see, right, folks will be assessing both what the environment is like for people with identities that they share and identities that they don't, because nobody's all 15. That's like just not really possible. And gives us a sense of what the environment is like for a really wide spectrum of different identities. So also this is another thing that will come out. These numbers are just like fill in fake numbers. 922 apparently at my imaginary organization. So at the other end, you'll see this with numbers coming out of the DEI CAT. And then we do focus groups. So focus groups are a chance for folks to have a conversation. We'll have a facilitator from Tangible Development. The focus groups come in sort of 3 large categories, maybe 4 actually, I guess. 4. One is open. You'll see there's 2 open sessions on the 9th and the 31st of March. Open sessions are open to all town and county employees, except folks who are cabinet members or at like very high supervisory levels. If you think you might not fit in that group, if you have questions, you can always check in with me or with Kamal. But you probably know if you're high enough up in the ranks to not be in an open group. We find that when senior leadership is in an open group, folks don't feel comfortable talking. And so those groups are close to senior leadership. Not all groups are. We have groups based on social identity, right? So identities that you would have whether you were at work or not, right? So things like BIPOC, so Black, Indigenous, people of color, immigrants, people with disabilities, women, LGBTQ, women of color, veterans, they're all identity-based groups. For groups like that, we, as much as possible, I think veterans might be the lone exception here where we can't make a match. The facilitator will be somebody who shares that identity. So I, run focus groups for women, for LGBTQ folks, for people with disabilities, but I don't run BIPOC focus groups or women of color focus groups because that's not an identity I hold, and it's not appropriate. We have other team members who will take those. So know that if you attend a focus group, you may be seeing me. If this is an identity we share, you will also be seeing, if you're looking at identity and thinking, Bree is not that, you will definitely be looking at somebody who's not me when you come and join that focus group. We have two topical ones, so that are about identity, but we welcome, rather than having everyone share the same identity, we'll be talking across identities. So the intergenerational group is like that, for folks to talk about age, and growing up on and off the island is like that, to talk about, unsurprisingly, growing up on or off the island, or both for some folks. And then we have groups that are based on your role in the workplace, right? So one for the leadership team, particularly noting that they are often not participating in others because they are trying to create space for the rest of y'all. One for managers and supervisors, so folks who supervise others but aren't part of that top level. And then for folks who are frontline staff, in this case, frontline staff means folks who face the public typically in any way. So whether that's, fighting fires or at a desk, those are all frontline staff. And at the very bottom, and this is more of a sneak peek into what's coming, even in the same time period, but a little bit farther down the line, the community, there will also be a community focus group open. Typical focus groups are open up to 20 folks. For the community, we'll have the possibility of opening more than one. These will be open to the broader community, and I'm just sort of heads upping you that it exists. It will be part of a communication a little bit later, but there is a piece of this that also involves the broader community as well. So a chance to talk in focus groups, have some conversation. The facilitator will have some questions to guide it. But these are all so the survey is completely anonymous. There's no way for us to know who you are when you fill it out. You'll get an email that directs you where to go. If you have an email address, if you are someone without an email, you will get one in hard copy. For the focus groups, it's completely confidential. True anonymity is impossible because you're in a group with other people. They will know you were there. Right, noting that the limits around this are a little different for the two pieces, but in both cases, right, we work really hard on the tangible development side, and we are who controls the data to make sure that y'all's identities and thoughts are kept confidential and anonymous. And we thematize the data to be able to do that. So we're not telling individual people's stories. So, right, starting March 9th, focus groups, lots of opportunities to have conversation, share your thoughts about different kinds of lived experiences. So looking at the longer timeline, which we're obviously already into, this is February. So in January, we had leadership readiness with leadership, which I was talking about earlier. So we've done some initial sort of setting the table with your leadership. Right now, we're at the first bullet point of February with an intro presentation to all staff. And sign up for focus groups will open tomorrow. So watch for that email. It should come sometime to you tomorrow. There will also be posters going up around this, but that at some point this week. So there will be lots of communication to be able to sign up for that. And then similarly, I think either later today or tomorrow, you should get an email recruiting you to let me trip over my tongue, recruiting you to join the DEI committee. Right now, we're looking for folks, and I'm going to talk about a little bit more about that in a moment. And then as we move into next month, we'll start with actual assessment. The DEI CAT launches the 9th. So watch for your email or letter. If you do not have an email address, you will get a hard copy letter. If you have a work email address, you will get an email. So if you have a work email, don't look for a letter. And if you don't have a work email, well, obviously you won't be looking for an email. Know that in both cases, you'll have both your link if you're an email and the passcode you'll get I think a numeric passcode are unique to you. I have no idea who belongs to who. It doesn't come, the data doesn't come back that way, but it's a one-time use thing. So it will, you can't like share your password with someone else. If someone loses theirs, please have them circle back to me or to Kamal so that we can get folks like connected to a new passcode. If someone messes up or something like that or loses theirs, it's not unfixable, but sharing yours will just create chaos because either they'll steal your opportunity to take it accidentally if you haven't done it yet, or they'll just still be shut out because you will have already taken it. And then focus groups also starting on the 9th. Sign up for focus groups that will be starting tomorrow. So encourage you to sign up early, get your slots, put it on your calendar, know that this is happening. But we also wanted to give folks time for this next stretch where we know many folks are taking time away, school is on vacation, didn't want to cross over with that. And then looking ahead, there will also be community assessment. And there'll be a sort of second round of communications around this, but that survey will launch a little bit later. So the DI CAT closes on the 22nd, and then on the 23rd, the community survey will launch. The community survey is hosted internally by Tangible Development. So for all of you you're also community members, so right, you'll see this a second time. You're welcome to take both surveys since you fall into both categories. And right, community focus groups. And I encourage you to encourage, community members who are not necessarily employees to participate in the community part of it. The more information we get, the better, the more we're able to know. We will have selected the DEI committee in early/mid-March, and then we'll begin capacity building. So that's 16 hours of training to enhance knowledge about diversity, equity, and inclusion, running March through June. And then on my end, as this is happening, once we finish collecting the data, myself and our data analyst, Sam, who some of you will probably have a chance to interact with because he scribes a lot of focus groups, he and I will be doing the data analysis, writing the report that goes to the town and county leadership, which we'll be delivering in July, and then reporting out. And you will eventually see me and or other pieces of our team sharing pieces of the information depending on how report dissemination is decided. Also knowing that that's the middle of the summer, and right, you may see me at various points, because while that's the end of the assessment phase, that's only 8 months into our 18 months together. So we've got another 10 months. I'm with y'all till about sometime in May of next year. So lots of time together. So questions about the focus groups. These are FAQs that I find come up a lot, right? How do you sign up for a focus group? And how do you know if you've successfully done so? When you get the email, there will be a link. The link will send you to a landing page. The landing page will have a little box that says password or something like that. The password, I'm just going to say it out loud. It will also be in the email. It's Nantucket 123. We're not trying to be tricky. We're just trying to keep people who aren't Nantucket related out of it, so that you don't accidentally have stray folks, from random nowhere in there. This is really just meant to keep out strangers, not to have you all make special passwords or anything. And you'll get an email back if you've successfully signed up. So you can expect back, and we run it through Calendly. So if you're getting it from Calendly, make sure your email permissions are set so that Calendly doesn't get swept into spam. So if you were looking at some of those focus groups and thinking, do we have 20 people who fill that are that identity? So one, you may find that you do, right? That for many of them, you actually do have 20 or more. You do for pretty much all of them, but also we don't have to fit the 20 to run a focus group, right? I've run focus groups with as few as 2 and as many as about 25. We try to cap them at 20 because any more than that's not really a conversation anymore. But we're happy to do this with whatever size group is appropriate. How far in advance, how close to the moment can you sign up? So you can sign up until the last minute if someone else has signed up, right? So as soon as Simon signs up, it sort of cements the thing all the way up until then. And then I think up until an hour before you can sign up. I don't encourage you to do that though. I encourage you to go ahead and sign up. You can cancel yourself if you need to. I ask that you do cancel yourself if you decide you can't make it anymore, but go ahead and sign up for the ones you want. Make sure to snag your spaces. And if you are trying to join real last minute and you're ever encountering a barrier, you can always send me an email. I am in the very nice way of having a very small company. I am Bree at tangibledevelopment.com. So, and that will be shared with you in emails that will be coming, several this week and more after that. And can you get there from not a work computer? Yes, you can get there from any digital device, right? So focus groups are virtual. They'll be run on Zoom, much like this, only with, less people and more interaction, less screen sharing. And you can do it from anywhere, from any device, as long as you've got some kind of, internet access, including your cell phone. So we have folks join from cell phones, from work computers, from home computers, whatever works for you, especially depending on where you are at that time of day. So yes, it's not tied to the IP address in that sense. So here's another way to get involved. So if you're thinking, this sounds really interesting to me, like I wish I knew how to get more involved, I wish I had a role in this. This is an opportunity for you to join the DEI committee. We're looking to form a committee that's representative of the overall town and county team, right, in terms of functional roles and personal identities. Group will be working closely with tangible development to create an infrastructure for organizational sustainability for DEI. So long-term, right, communicating projects and events related to strategic diversity communicating. And so this, right, lots of opportunity here. And then learning objectives too, right? So this is a chance for folks to develop a common DEI language, to understand some core concepts around privilege, oppression, socialization, understanding institutional and cultural issues of inequity and how this shows up in particularly a US context, right? So this is a very US-based work because where we are, engaging others in workplace accountability, welcoming inclusive workplace culture, learning and practicing, talking openly about race, gender, disability, sexuality, other identities, things that we weren't necessarily taught to talk very openly about in our day-to-day lives growing up or in our professional training. And then the committee is also going to be working on creating an infrastructure for organizational sustainability, right? So thinking about specific and measurable goals and strategizing with us, particularly as we move into the strategic phase about how to implement them in Nantucket's organizational culture, understanding opportunities and threats to organizational DEI work, and identifying the next steps together with us, right? The goal is to have the committee be a partner with leadership and with tangible development, shorter term with us, longer term with leadership in doing this work. In terms of the DEI structure and the time commitment, so we're looking for no more than 20 folks, but we'd love to get all 20 folks, and employees across the town and county. So any kind of role, we're not necessarily looking for any particular kind of expertise in this, right? We're really looking, the expertise we want is the expertise you bring from whatever your role is with the town and county. Your viewpoint, your vantage point, what you know and experience, not necessarily looking for people to bring specific DEI knowledge. If you have some, awesome, not necessary. And then it's going to take place twice a month on Thursdays from 2:30 to 4:30. First session is March 17th, and you can see the dates here. And that info is elsewhere as well. It'll be in the email you're sent. So if you're like trying to write these all down and haven't gotten them all, fear not, it is coming to you via email as well. So running through early to mid-June, depending on what you think the 9th is. And then if you are a QR code person, you can scan there to sign up for the DEI committee if you're interested. I also put the link to the sign up in the chat if you are someone who would prefer just to like click a link. But if you're interested, please fill out the interest form. I'd be really excited to have you as part of this. And then what's happening next? So join the DEIC if you're interested. Interest forms are due by March 8th. So you've got a few weeks, but that's soon. If you have any questions, right, please connect with me or with Kamal. And then participate, right? Watch your email, or if you're someone without an email, watch your hard copy mail and flyers for updates. Take the survey. It runs from March 9th to that should be the 22nd, March 9th through 22nd. So if you did not get, if March 9th passes you by and you did not get a link to the survey and you don't know how to get in touch. Something has happened. Sign up for focus groups. Again, sign up begins tomorrow. And focus groups start on the 9th. So simultaneous beginning in this case. And then keeping in mind the community survey will run March 23rd through April 11th. So after the DEI CAT, we'll share more information about the community piece as we get closer to it. So I want to give us a chance to have questions and answers, and also just thank you for being here. I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see more of you and see if anyone has any questions. I know it's a lot of information all at once. So I think if you have a question, if you want to raise your digital hand, because we're a big enough group that I can't even see you all on one screen. I appreciate you all being here. Yeah, Enoch.
Is participation part of our workday, or is it extracurricular?
Excellent question. So if it is part of your regular workday, it's part of your regular workday, is my understanding, that you'll be compensated for this time. I guess if you took the survey like on your own free time because you decided to, that's a different question. But yeah, this should be on your work time. If the hours for this fall outside of your work schedule, that's something you should check with your supervisor or check with HR. My understanding is that folks in most cases will be paid even for additional hours, but that will need to be arranged if you're like if it's not in your regular work time. The other thing you just need to do is if you're participating in a focus group, you'll want to check that with your supervisor if you're someone who has one, just to make sure that that's an okay time for you to be away from your desk, but there's no real need to share like which focus group you're participating in, or even that it's that specifically that's what it is, but just for the DEI project, just to make sure that that's a time you can be away. But yes, the expectation is that this will be during work time. Yeah, Noah.
Thank you, Bree. From an earlier slide, you used the term intergenerational to define a focus group. I might have missed how you define that, but I was wondering if you could go through that again.
Totally. It's possible I didn't say it. So thank you for asking either way. So intergenerational is meant to discuss age. It's a opportunity for folks to talk across generations. So we found that when we separate out folks by generation to talk about it, it doesn't actually produce that fruitful conversation, but it's an opportunity to talk about how age shows up, and age and generation show up in the workplace across the spectrum of ages and generations present in the workplace. Thanks for asking, Noah. Anyone else? Questions, clarifications? I got chat. Are the meetings online or in person? So pretty much everything in this case is virtual at this stage. So focus groups will be virtual. They'll happen via Zoom. When you sign up, you'll be sent the information for the link and how to get in. It will be sort of functionally a lot like this, only much smaller, and with you talking a lot more and me talking a lot less. Won't always be me either, but yeah, online. We may be in Nantucket in person at some point at the other stages, but this we're doing virtually. Yeah. Anything else, folks? All right. All right, last call for questions. I don't want to cut anyone off, but I also do not want to keep you here at your lunchtime any longer than we have stuff for. I am putting my email in the chat in case anybody has any follow-up. It is in fact just Bree at tangibledevelopment.com. But if you have any questions, think of anything, or need to follow up, I encourage you to reach out to me or to Kamal or to any of the project leads about this. I really encourage you to participate definitely in the assessment, right? We really want to hear all of your voices and all of your different experiences. And if you have the time and the interest, I really encourage you to be part of the DEI committee. It's important work. It's a lot of professional development that you might not get otherwise and is being sort of offered. And that time too that's paid time to sort of answer that other question for folks who are part of the DEI committee. That will also be paid time for them, so that the expectation is not that this is volunteer, but that this is during work hours. So I hope for folks who are interested that they will fill out the interest form. And I think with that, I don't have any other formal stuff for you. So unless anyone has any final questions, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I'm really excited to work with you to get to know the town and county of Nantucket better. And I hope you stay dry and warm.
Thank you. Hope you can come when the weather's nice.
That is my hope too. I have to admit, I grew up in Maine and I am not bummed to be missing February, but I'm hoping I might see you in the spring, summer, or fall. Take care, y'all.
Thank you, Bree.
Okay, bye. Thank you.